Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for your daily dose of the roars as we talk about the very stupid stuff going on in the world of technology. Because the stupid stuff going on in the wider world just makes my brain hurt. So anyways, welcome to my lab. My lab felt a lot bigger yesterday, I gotta say. This place felt a lot bigger until I started putting more and more stuff in here. It's kind of funny how space works that way. Anyway, so I got my office. My office is that way. We will go there for the rest of the video. But this is my lab room. So basically, as we start doing more and more projects for Silicon Dojo, I actually do need to build things. I do need to use components, build things with systems. Look at this. I have a Jetson Nano just literally sitting on my little workbench here. So anyways, moving the stuff over here to make it more efficient to actually be able to create all the projects that I need to create for Silicon Dojo. So here you go. Here's my lab. Here is my beautiful China cabinet. Don't tell the China people. They'll get jealous. Did you realize, right? The Chinese can actually put an autonomous drone on the dark side of the moon. But apparently they don't have shelves. IKEA, right? Drone, dark side of moon, China can do that. Shelving? I don't know. Every time I get these Chinese people in my comment stream, and then they start making all these comments about my China cabinets. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Do you not have IKEA in China? Is IKEA just a bridge too far? Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, they can do that at scale. Flat pack furniture? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that's a bridge too far for the China people. I don't know. Anyways, it is nice though. I get the full width of these shelves. I haven't been able to do the full width of these shelves since we left Maryland over 5 years ago. So anyways, we got that. We got my little lab environment here. You'll notice there are no bezels on this workbench. There's OLED. Well, I guess there's a bezel on this. This is what I consider an OLED screen. It's an I2C OLED screen. Anyways, we got that. We got an ultrasonic distance sensor, IR sensor. I already showed the thing. I got Raspberry Pi 5 here. This is what's actually sitting on my desk. You know what the funny part is? I literally noticed this right before I started filming the video. Do you realize this is literally just sitting on my desk? I'm not even trying to be a smartass. It's just, you know what they say is never forget your mission. Never forget your mission in life. So anyways, this is where we're going to be doing the online classes. So for Silicon Dojo, we have the self-study classes. So I do these videos for Silicon Dojo. Anyways, one of the cool things here, let me put this, is I love this screen. This is an awesome screen. This is a Samsung, I don't know, ridiculously expensive, really heavy. If you buy one of these screens, it is so fucking heavy. Right, so this is a 65-inch. I forget what the model is. Screen, but you're able to write on it. See, I'm able to. It's built for me to molest. Anyways, see, you can do this. Like, look at that, and then you can just take your hand and you can write. See, it is literally built for you to fondle. It's built for you to fondle. So I can say, like, there's a person here and they're going to the cloud and that's coming into your facility, and in your facility you have a web server, and then should be able to do colors. So this web server that we're talking about here, right, it's really pretty cool, right? Got the settings here. So again, for like color and stuff, we got color, so pen or highlighter. I can change the highlighter to that color, and now I can do like, look at that. So anyways, this little area here is we're going to be doing more of the Silicon Dojo self-study classes coming up soon as we as we pound into the future. Anyways, so there we go. There's my lab. There's my lab tour. My tour. Got my angry wobot. I always love my angry wobot. Look, I actually did. I did put these up. These were literally just collecting dust for years. So I was like, hey, I'll put that up in a corner where nobody will see it. But I put it up, damn it. People tell me I should be proud. Oh, you know what I'm really excited about? You know what I think is really awesome? This is going to show you why I'm not a geek. See, I am not a real geek. Because one of the coolest purchases I made from Amazon in a long, long time are these things. Look at these. These are so fucking cool. You know what these are? They're just crazy things. You're like, yes, I get the point. You put them under a table leg, and it makes the table higher. Woo! Look, motherfuckers. This, to me, this is far more impressive than a fucking bezel size. But anyways, I got these from Amazon because I was thinking about the table. I might buy a better table. I might honestly buy a better table. But I have this 8-foot. So this is I think it's an 8-foot. Yeah, I have this 8-foot plastic table. Again, had it for like 10 years or whatever. And I was looking at buying one of these standing desks and all that. That got expensive and I have to ship it and all that kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? Really? I just want something the size of this plastic table. And that was taller. So I went to Amazon and I got these. They actually did cost a little bit of money. It was like $30 for these things. But now I have my thing is now like waist high or whatever. So now I have a decent sized workbench for not very much money. And that's the kind of thing I'm excited about. Again, this is why I'm not a real geek. This is why I cannot be like MKBHD. Because on my workbench, this is what I call an OLED. The screen that I have is that thing, and what I'm most excited about is little doohickeys that raise the size of my table. So anyways, I guess I'm just not a real geek. I guess I'm not a real geek. It is kind of weird. It is kind of, just look at this room. Just look at this room. And just think about the shit I'm given by so many viewers on YouTube. You're not a real geek. Jesus Christ, people. What do you have to do? What do you have to do to be a real geek? So anyways, here, this is the desk. This is the desk I normally sit at. That's a big ass. And that is my random 75-inch OLED screen. I'm using it to play my PlayStation 5 games. Because, I just have a random 75-inch OLED screen. I don't really know what to do with it. It's good for playing video games. It's awesome. I sit here, I put my little chair here, and I looked at, that's good. Bit overkill. Anyway, so we're gonna put more pictures. Those robot pictures. We're gonna put robot pictures behind me. So that's what'll be behind me in here, and then this will just be my office. Wow. So I will have a lab and I will have an office in my mama's basement. Like, wow, Eli, how did you get a lab and an office in your mama's basement? It's like, that's what a special kid I am. Anyways, that does look weird. Wow, that looks weird as a background. That's just a bit anticlimactic there. Whoa. Oh, wow. This room just became so much more echoey. That's funny. Wow. Yeah, because I had the, I had the big shelving unit here. And I never really noticed a lot of echo in this room before. And now all of a sudden I notice a shit ton of echo in this room. So anyways, if you don't want echo in a room, IKEA shelves might be your answer. And if you're Chinese, I don't know what to do. Hey, but Eli, I am Chinese and I have echo. What do I do? It's like, well, if you had IKEA, if the Chinese understood flat pack furniture, you would have a solution. But apparently, I don't know. Apparently, that comes after quantum computing. I guess that's a bit of an inside joke. If you're new to this channel, you just clicked because of clickbait or whatever. And like, what the fuck is Eli talking about with Chinese people and China cabinets and shit? Oh, it's a long story. It's a long, tedious story. We got a lot of videos. You can go back and watch them. Anyways, so the topic. Before we get into that, do remember, I do these videos in order to fun. Wow, it is so fucking echoey in here now. It's like not a joke. It's like, wow. There's a lot of echo. Anyways, the reason I do these videos is in order to fund Silicon Dojo, free hands-on technology education in Durham, North Carolina. We're having a class coming up on AI and telephony using Twilio and 11 Labs. That's coming up next week. We're having a full-day class on SQL, Structured Query Language, and the Bottle Web App Framework for building AI web applications. That's coming up in a couple weeks. Full-day class there, and we have another class on TCP/IP version 4 for programmers. If you're interested in those, take a look at silicondojo.com. You can attend, and again, it's free. Get all these some of these people on here like, oh, look at this guy. He's just shilling these classes. Who would pay for the classes? The people that find them valuable. Here's the deal: you come to the class. If you find it valuable, you put some money in the donor box link down below. If you don't find it valuable, you don't. Imagine that business model. Imagine only paying. Not just if you're satisfied, but if you want the service to continue. It's very simple. Hey, folks, do you want this kind of thing to continue? Throw money into the donor box. If you don't want it to continue, don't. Imagine if capitalism worked more that way. You only funded the things you wanted to survive. Anyways, that's why I'm here. But what we need to talk about today, the important thing to talk about today is Musk. Wow, I have not talked about Musk in a long time. I do find this to be a fascinating thing, kind of like the news cycle. I was talking about that with the layoffs, right? We started doing videos, layoffs, and I realized I hadn't done a layoff video for a while. And I get that with a lot of viewers, right? I'll talk about layoffs, and then they'll be like, why do you always talk about layoffs? And I'll talk about Trump, or why do you always talk about Trump? And they'll talk about China, why do you always talk about China? They'll talk about Musk, why do you always talk about Musk? And it is interesting when the news cycle, just kind of something to keep in mind, is that the news cycle does seem to hyper-focus on specific topics at any one period of time. It's just kind of curious, right? Again, we're going back and now talking about Musk. I used to talk about Musk a lot. People are like, oh, Eli just has this thing about Musk. And I was like, no, he's just... he may destroy our civilization while he does it, but he is doing interesting things. I do believe interesting is the word. Anyway, so now we're talking about Musk again, because Musk, per CNBC and per himself actually, has combined xAI with SpaceX. Not with Tesla for some reason. So from CNBC, and we'll actually go to Musk's blog post too. Musk's xAI SpaceX combo is the biggest merger of all time, valued at $1.25 trillion. That's right, the modern world. Billions of dollars. Man, that's so 2015. It's 2026. Motherfucker, if your shit ain't worth $1 trillion, are you even really trying anymore? I do find this to be weird too. So when I was taking a look at this whole SpaceX thing, I was curious about the revenue, because again, they're talking about it being $1 trillion. So they were talking about SpaceX being $1 trillion company before, because SpaceX is supposed to IPO. And then they had talked about xAI merging with it, and xAI is supposedly worth $300 billion or whatever. And one of the things I was interested in is what is their actual revenue? One of the problems with companies that build physical stuff is that their revenue is many times actually a hell of a lot smaller than this fantasy land horse crap out of Silicon Valley, like Facebook. Right? Again, if you look at, companies like Ford, right? Ford is, instrumental in helping the world, move, basically. But their actual revenue is not that big at the end of the day, right? And that's what you find is a lot of the hotel companies and the grocery store companies and the agriculture companies. It's amazing that per the standards that we see in Silicon Valley, the tech world, that their revenue is actually pretty damn small. And so when they were talking about SpaceX being $1 trillion IPO, I was kind of curious about what their actual revenue was. And do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? No joke. SpaceX's revenue, to be valued at $1 trillion, is actually $15 billion a year. And apparently out of that, 80% of that at this point in time is Starlink. So $12 billion comes from Starlink. and like $3 billion comes from launches, which isn't bad. Don't get me wrong, those are beautiful fucking numbers in a sane world. But it is one of those weird things where you're like, yeah, but how does that get to $1 trillion valuation? Right, that's a lot, right? Profit margin is supposedly pretty good. But holy hell, their revenue actually is not that high. And it's projected to get to like $20 billion in the next couple of years, which again, is fine in any normal fucking world. $20 billion in revenue is terrific. But like, we're not in a normal world. We're in 2026. And you're sitting there like, really? And I do think it's a fascinating thing, like with Musk. And the whole idea of what is the value of a thing, right? I've talked about that before, right? There is societal value, and then there's economic value, right? Look at what I do, right? I sit here and I scream into the camera about stupid crap, right? This is one of the things that I do for work. And then one of the other things that I do for work is I do Silicon Dojo, where I actually teach people how to program, how to use databases, how to use artificial intelligence, all of that kind of thing, right? Here's the deal. One of these things is incredibly good for society, and one of these things brings me money relatively easily. Can you guess which is which? If you said that Silicon Dojo is what actually pays the bills, you, my friends, are a naive dumbass. No, basically, again, I have a payday bar. My joke with Silicon Dojo is I do earn one hell of a payday off of Silicon Dojo. It's a payday bar. I get paid an extra large payday bar. It's actually not too bad. Again, with the crowdfunding. Again, I'm happy. I'm in the black in it. My toes in the black. But anyways, the thing is, right, I do all this work, right? It takes me a long time to create the classes. I go teach the classes. I do all that kind of stuff. But economically, it's just simply not that valuable. Where I come here and I scream about really stupid shit online into a camera. You know, I make weird fucking jokes about Chinese people and China cabinets and shit. And this actually this pays money. This pays money. This, what I'm doing now, is economically valuable. Whereas, you know, Silicon Dojo is societally valuable. And that's one of the interesting things. Like when I look at Musk and I look at SpaceX, I do wonder in the technology realm, especially with who he is, right? He's like this figurehead of the technology movement. And I do wonder if there's just an inherent psychological mistake about something like SpaceX, of thinking its societal value is the same as its economic value. Because Facebook pushed us into the future, good or bad, right? Because broadband internet pushed us into the future, because Google pushed us into the future, because Windows pushed us into the future, and they were insanely valuable companies. Are we correlating in our mind things that should not actually be correlated? The idea of if something is world-changing, it by definition should be incredibly economically valuable. And that's the thing that I wonder about with SpaceX is right now, again, SpaceX has like first mover advantage and everybody else. Again, it's weird, like, God bless Elon Musk for figuring out good competitive environments. Like, not only is he first mover advantage, or basically first mover advantage many of the times, but then even once people figure out what he's doing is valuable, his competitors are still doing whatever the fuck they're doing, right? So one of the interesting things to think about, like with SpaceX right now, is SpaceX has the most open market, the biggest potential it may ever have, right? Blue Origins is coming online. China is creating their own rockets. Europe, well, Europe's doing what Europe. Oh, poor Europe. Oh, well, Europe knows they have a problem. Hey! It's a start. You can't solve your problems until you accept you got one. Anyways, Europe realizes they have issues. But anyway, there's other competitors out there. And so one of the interesting things to be thinking about right now is like, okay, they're at $15 billion of revenue now. They'll go up to $20 billion, whatever. But this is in the most open, competitive environment they will probably ever be in. Right now, like a lot of the things that they've done, people didn't realize it would work, right? Reusable components for rocket launching. A lot of people didn't think that would even work. Now they know it works. And once you know it works, reverse engineering and then building better isn't necessarily the most difficult thing in the world. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like, if this is the best this is the most solid they're probably ever going to get. Again, a $1 trillion valuation, that seems concerning at best. So anyways, curious with that with SpaceX, but now they're merging that with xAI too. Elon Musk's rocket maker SpaceX has acquired his AI startup xAI in a deal that will value the company at $1.25 trillion. The record-setting transaction is the largest merger of all time and values SpaceX at $1 trillion and xAI at $250 billion. So hey, again, proof that capitalism is working. If you have a heart attack, you're gonna go bankrupt. But hey, we now have $1 trillion transactions on the table. So I mean, you don't want to be a communist. I mean, think about this for a second. Mondami is trying to figure out how to provide affordable food and affordable housing to the citizens of New York City, which, I mean, that is so evilly, communist. On the other hand, the capitalists, want Elon Musk to be worth $1 trillion and are excited about the first $1 trillion transaction. Look, this guy over here can make $1 trillion under capitalism, or this entire city can eat under communism. I mean, come on now. Come on. Isn't it obvious who you should pick? Anyways, Musk, who is also CEO of Tesla, announced the deal in a blog post, and we will go over that because it is wild, on Monday, saying he's creating, quote, the most ambitious vertically integrated innovation engine on and off Earth with AI, rockets, space-based internet, and the X social media platform. The main reason for the merger, he said, is to better build, quote, orbital data centers. Oh, and he goes into that a lot. If you're like, oh, that was just a soundbite, no, he's really into these orbital data centers. The deal comes ahead of the highly anticipated blockbuster initial public offering for SpaceX later this year. The Financial Times previously reported the company is looking to raise up to $50 billion at a valuation as high as $1.5 trillion. The merger deal, which is structured as a share exchange, will convert a share of xAI into 0.1433 share of SpaceX stocks. Documents show xAI at $75.46 per share and SpaceX at $526.59 per share. I do also think this is interesting. Again, we talk about this whole thing with the financial machinations that are going on right now, where it's not just I want that, here's money, give me that, here's your money, right? How business should be. They've got all this weird kind of stuff going on. And I do think it's kind of interesting with this too, right? This is being sold as a transaction for $1.25 trillion. But it doesn't appear any cash, or at least much cash, is actually changing hands. So it's basically this thing that we say is worth this much money. We will give some of this to buy this thing over here. And again, where I get really worried about this with the state of our financial systems is I do feel it is just so much smoke and mirrors. Why is a company that has $15 billion a year in revenue worth $1 trillion? Why is a quote-unquote AI company so supposedly worth $250 billion, right? It really just feels like magical numbers that they're pulling out of their butt, with the demand that the numbers become larger and larger and larger. The only thing that matters, apparently to anybody, is that the number is larger. Bank valuation documents viewed by CNBC value SpaceX at between $859 billion and $1.26 trillion, and X at between $219 billion and $294 billion. Why? Why is xAI worth theoretically $300 billion? Who knows? Who knows? Another main reason for the merger is to provide more capital to xAI, which makes the Grok chatbot. The startup is burning through cash as it races to build out infrastructure against rival AI labs such as OpenAI and Anthropic. And that's one of the concerns that I do have with all this stuff that Musk is doing, is that you do have to realize, well, until now, all these things are different companies. Tesla is a different company than SpaceX, which was a different company than xAI, which was a different company than Twitter, which is a different company than the Neuro thing, which is a different company than Boring and all that kind of stuff. But there's this weird, like they were different companies, but in people's minds, right, they want to invest in Elon Musk, which isn't something you can actually do. One of the things I do get worried about with this is we saw, so Twitter seemed to be financially failing, right? So he bought Twitter for $40 billion, right? Pocket change, but he got a lot of other investors and folks to buy into Twitter with him. Now, Twitter is a private company, so past when he purchased it, we don't have any SEC filings anymore. But from everything that he said, it seemed like it was burning cash and that the value had dropped massively, right? So basically, the value had gone from $40 billion down to $10 billion. Now, if it's only his cash, if he put $40 billion on the table and that's it, whatever. He lost $30 billion. But the thing is, he got a lot of investors involved, and a lot of investors invested because they know that investing in Elon Musk is always a winning proposition. Right? So anyways, they see their investment take a 75% haircut. And so the interesting thing there is it doesn't look like there was a path for Twitter to get out of that, right? There is no path for Twitter to become the next Facebook. There is no path for Twitter to become the next TikTok. There is no path for become the next viral thing. Twitter is whatever the fuck it is, whatever. It is what it is, right? And so one of the things is, so his investors didn't want to take that haircut. It would cause a lot of other problems too. So he has xAI. So xAI was also getting investment money. So what he does is he has xAI then buy Twitter, right? Now it's no longer whether or not Twitter is valuable or whatever else, is whether this xAI thing, right? So basically he's AI washing the value of Twitter, which is essentially what it is. Which, again, as I've said before, I don't think a lot of this stuff makes sense. The whole idea that you want to get your training data off of Twitter, what? Right, you hear this, how these AI founder, scraping Reddit, scraping Twitter for real human interactions. I don't know what Twitter is, but if you're calling it a real human interaction, I'm not sure what your real human interactions are in life, right? But anyways, right? So basically, he's able to lump Twitter into xAI, and then it makes Twitter and xAI look successful. The interesting thing now is, again, if xAI has been burning cash, and if AI is the fraud that I think it is. And again, in my heart of hearts, I know I keep saying AI fraud, AI fraud, AI fraud. It's because it is, right? The value propositions just don't make sense. The tech stacks don't make sense, right? When you can run models on most people's smartphones, decent models on most people's smartphones, when you can run good models on a lot of people's desktop computers, right? It really begs the question of why you need these $1 trillion data centers. Why do you need 1.3 in CapEx expenses when so much stuff can be done on the computers? Again, it's even interesting with Elon Musk. He was talking about that with Tesla vehicles, right? So Tesla vehicles, they have pretty powerful computers inside. Now, one of the things he brought up not that long ago is basically, what if you could rent out the processing power in all these different Tesla vehicles? Again, basically, I don't know how you would shard AI tasks, but do some kind of equivalent of sharding AI tasks, distribute that amongst a million or however many millions of Tesla vehicles are out there, and basically, you actually have a fully distributed data center that can be connected to, right? And then you don't have to worry about new powers, right? All this kind of stuff. And that's one of the things I talk about, like with this whole architecture thing for AI, that it just doesn't make sense. Like they really just want to hammer this shit home. Like, what these jackasses are arguing, it doesn't even fucking make sense. Even if you do believe that artificial intelligence is the future, the technology that we have does not point to the infrastructure that they want to build out. But anyways, right? So you have xAI, supposedly worth $300 billion. It is burning through cash with a questionable, what is their plan to actually proving a $300 billion valuation? Again, remember with investors, they don't want to buy at $300 billion and have it stay at $300 billion. They want to go from $300 billion to $600 billion or $300 billion to $1.5 trillion. All right, that's the kind of thing that they want. So the question is, like xAI is already worth $300 billion, supposedly. How is it going to get to $600 billion? Like where are the numbers again? And the competitive environment, the architecture, all this stuff comes into question. And so it is interesting now, right? So xAI saved Twitter by essentially eating Twitter. And now it does look like that SpaceX is now going to save xAI by eating it, right? But the curious thing is, like, does this just become a larger financial issue? If it was highly questionable what the actual value of xAI was before it consumed Twitter, and then you start looking at SpaceX, and you're like, look, $15 billion in revenue, God bless. But why is that worth $1 trillion a year? It's right. So another questionable value proposition company is now buying xAI. I don't know, it just puts you into a nasty position, I think. Now, if we go over and we actually take a look at what Elon Musk has to say, because God bless, that's the nice thing about social media. Like, you don't need Rachel Maddow. You don't need Tucker Carlson. You can just see exactly what these people have to say. So this is a blog post. This is a blog post from SpaceX, February 2nd, 2026. xAI joins SpaceX to accelerate humanity's future. Now notice, they're not talking about actual products. They're not talking about what you can buy. They're not talking about what the profit margin is. Humanity's future. How much is humanity's future worth? The real question is how much am I willing to spend for that bottle of water? Right? Water is a requirement for you to live. It doesn't mean you're going to spend $1 million for a bottle of water, though. SpaceX has acquired xAI to form the most ambitious, vertically integrated innovation engine on and off Earth with AI, rockets, space-based internet, direct-to-mobile device communications, and the world's foremost real-time information and free speech platform. Right? So this is no longer, notice Elon Musk's playbook. This isn't a car company. It's an energy company. It's not an energy company. It's a robotics company. It's not a robotics company. It's an AI company. So whenever you try to talk about one of his companies, you're always wrong because it's never quite what. Again, it's that whole thing. Literally changing the definition of the company during the argument to win the argument. Again, how long is that going to last for? So yeah, so Twitter is now in the same org chart as SpaceX. Synergy. This marks not just the next chapter, but the next book in SpaceX and xAI's mission, scaling to make a sentient. Jesus fuck. Was he on ketamine when he wrote that? Dude, I'm not making this shit up. Who needs Tucker Carlson? We just got Elon Musk. This is quote, scaling to make a sentient sun to understand the universe and extend the light of consciousness to the stars. Question from the Ask Me in the back. What the fuck is a sentient sun? Is that a new protocol? Is that a new product? Can I buy one? Can I buy a sentient sun? I'd spend $100 for a sentient sun. What is a sentient sun? Who knows? Eli, it's like a spinning Rubik's Cube. What the fuck is wrong with these people? We're all going to hell. You all realize we are, in fact, on the highway to hell. Current advances in AI are dependent on large terrestrial data centers, which require immense amounts of power and cooling. Global electricity demand for AI simply cannot be met with terrestrial solutions, even in the near term, without imposing hardship on communities and the environment. Again, we're going back to this whole thing about the infrastructure for artificial intelligence has to be the disaster that they're all trying to build for. Why? Who the fuck knows? In the long term, space-based AI is obviously the only way to scale. So basically, he's trying to combine the whole AI thing with the whole space thing. Why is it obvious? Why is it? I don't know. To harness even a millionth of our sun's energy would require over 1 million times more energy than our civilization currently uses. Why do we need 1 millionth of our sun's energy, right? This is the kind of thing that sounds good, but is fucking stupid, right? To harness even 1 millionth of our sun's energy would require over 1 million times more energy than our civilization currently uses. All right. I guess. I don't know the math on that, but sure. So, the only logical solution is to transport these resource-intensive efforts to a location with vast power and space. I mean, space is called space for a reason. Yeah. Throwing in that quippy meme babe right there. By directly harnessing near constant solar power with little operating or maintenance costs, these satellites will transform our ability to scale compute. It's always sunny in space. Launching a constellation of 1 million satellites that operate as orbital data centers is a first step towards becoming a Kardashev 2 level civilization, one that can harness the sun's full power while supporting AI-driven applications for billions of people today and ensuring humanity's multi-planetary future. So basically the idea is he wants to put millions of satellites into space. And so it does appear with this that this is xAI. So xAI will need to put millions of satellites into space. And then Amazon's going to need to put millions of satellites into space. And OpenAI is going to need to put millions of satellites into space. Anyways, let's see here. The sheer number of satellites that will be needed for space-based data centers will push Starship to even greater heights. This is, I'm quoting this shit. With launches every hour, carrying 200 tons per flight, Starship will deliver millions of tons to orbit and beyond per year, enabling an exciting future where humanity is out exploring amongst the stars. Look, as I've said before, right? Modernization, industrialization, it creates poisons. It kills a lot of stuff, right? I believe, and I've said this before. I think we should just turn Illinois into a Superfund site. Nobody would care. Nobody would. You just make all of Illinois the American Superfund site, and I think we'll be fine with that. Everybody else gets fresh air and trees and whatever, and then we just kind of dump nuclear waste straight onto Illinois, right? Anyways, right? Look. I get the technology and computers and all of this take a toll on the planet. But think about this. He is talking about launching a Starship per hour, 24 Starships a day, launching 200 tons per flight. Can you even fathom what the air quality in wherever the fuck his spaceports will become in like a week? I mean, think about this. So 140, that would be 164 launches of a Starship-sized craft per week, week in, week out. Would you want to live within 200 miles of that Superfund site? I guess they can put it in Illinois. But again, that's where, when you start listening to what he's actually saying, not between the lines or anything else. Building data centers on planet Earth where you can take the cement, you can drive the cement truck from the cement factory to where the stuff needs to get poured and back again. That's a bridge too far. But 200 tons per flight, every hour on the hour, that just makes sense. The basic math is that launching 1 million tons per year of satellites, generating 100 kilowatt of compute power per ton, would add 100 gigawatts of AI compute capacity annually with no ongoing operational or maintenance needs. Ultimately, there is a path to launching 1 terawatt a year from Earth. What? I mean, there's a path to it. I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. My estimate is that within 2 to 3 years, and he always gives these weird numbers, 2 to 3 years from now, so 2029, 2030 at the worst, 2030 at the worst. My estimate is that within 2 to 3 years, the lowest cost way to generate AI compute will be in space. This cost efficiency alone will enable innovative companies to forge ahead in training their AI models and processing data at unprecedented speeds and scales, accelerating breakthroughs in our understanding of physics and the invention of technologies to benefit humanity. The new constellation will build upon well-established space sustainability design and operational strategies, including end-of-life disposal, that have proven successful for SpaceX's existing broadband satellite systems. That's the other thing to be thinking about, right? They're sending all of these systems up into space. Look, they've got an end of life. All of these have an end of life, whether it's 3 years, whether it's 5 years, whether it's 10 years, whether it's 20 years. It also means you have to have a space-bound refresh cycle. Like, your refresh cycle isn't a couple of servers every couple of years. Your refresh cycle is basically an entire data center, like every however often. The capabilities we unlock by making space-based data centers a reality will fund and enable self-growing bases on the moon, an entire civilization on Mars, and ultimately expansion to the universe. And again, like, there's this idea that AI solves everything. I do not grasp this thing where artificial intelligence somehow magically solves all of humanity's problems, and all of a sudden we can now expand into the universe, right? You know, it's one of the things I've talked about before, where if you look at efficiency gains that we have, you know, just as humans, right, in my lifetime, the reality is hunger should be a thing of the past. I mean, and I'm not saying this to be communist or whatever else. Hunger, by hook or by crook, should be a thing of the past. Housing should be a consideration of the past. So many of these things, problems we have in our society right now, should be gone, right? I think about that. The house I live in now, right? It was built in 2012. Its value went up 3x in a little over a decade. Right? Same house, but the value is increased. The reason is not because we don't have the technology to do X, Y, or Z. It's not because we don't have the ability to make things better in our society. It's because of the weird financialization we have going on, right? And so the thing is, like, if we can already house everybody, if we can already feed everybody, if we can already give people medical care and all that kind of stuff, but the issue is the financialization in our system, right? Our economic, the way that capitalism is being performed is a failure at this point in time. Then bringing AI and robots into this mix isn't going to change anything, right? If you have all of this free robot labor to build houses, but NIMBYism still restricts zoning so that houses can't get built, we're not going to actually have any more houses, right? You know, if AI figures out how to do cold fusion, but the oil companies, the petroleum companies still have the ear of the President of the United States, and so the President of the United States doesn't allow cold fusion to be created, we still got all the crap in the atmosphere. It's like there's this weird idea that AI, like that technology, solves human problems. Now, that's just not how humans work. Thank you for everything you have done and will do for the light cone of consciousness. Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck that means. Again, to be clear, I'm quoting here. I'm quoting. Elon, you're being Tucker Carlson. He never said light cone of No, he did. No, he did. Thank you for everything you have done and will do for the light cone of consciousness. Because that's a thing, apparently. Ad Astra, Elon. So yeah. I don't know. xAI has now been purchased by SpaceX so that they can build a terawatt of AI data centers in space per year. And that apparently, I have been informed by wealthier people than me, will solve all of humanity's problems. How? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, I do wonder what happens. I do wonder what happens when Elon Musk falls apart. Right, again, that's my concern here. What happens if Elon Musk falls apart before Blue Origin is a real competitor? What happens if Elon Musk falls apart before Europe, does something? Anyways, that's going to happen. Like, what happens if Elon Musk falls apart even before China perfects things? They just had like 3 rockets go boom a couple of weeks ago, right? I mean, it is like there are these systems that are incredibly valuable to society, and they are being managed by somebody who seems to be a deluded ketamine addict, who is only falling ever further from the concept of reality. And what happens when that goes boom, right? I don't know. Because this just, again, like xAI merging with Tesla, I think that probably actually makes sense. Again, Tesla is supposed to be the robot company, right? It's supposed to be the robot company. Cars are now what's valuable. It's the robots, the AI that is. So you would think Tesla, being supposedly an AI company, that would be the one to merge with xAI if they were going to merge. Now he's doing this with SpaceX, and it does seem basically so he can have more power. It does seem like his interest in Tesla is ever waning as his failures at Tesla mount, right? As it is becoming ever harder to dismiss his failures at that company, it seems like he's trying to push everything over to the next company. And it will be curious, like what if it just does fall apart? Again, like what happens if you have something close to a not even a WeWork moment? What if you had an Uber moment, right? When Uber was IPOing years ago, Jesus, time goes by. Anyways, many years ago, Uber was IPOing, and they were looking at $120 billion valuation for Uber, as I would say was ridiculous on the face of it. Anyways, came out, it IPO'd at around 60 billion. I think it IPO'd at like 60 to 70 billion, and then it dropped from there. Dropped down to like 40, 50 billion dollars. It's recovered quite a bit from there. But anyways, I do wonder with like Elon Musk, like what if they IPO SpaceX, and you're looking at this $1.25 trillion valuation, and then what if the IPO just tanks? What if people just don't respond to it the way that they're expected to respond to it? I don't know. Be curious to see. So anyways, this is Elon Musk's vision. So we're going to hear more and more about these asinine space-based AI data centers. Again, I don't get it. We got a lot of room on planet Earth. As I say, if you've never been to the high plains, go to the high plains. Holy shit, the high plains go on forever, right? Look, you look at, like, again, I love Wyoming. Wyoming as a state has less of a population than Baltimore City does proper. Baltimore City has like 630,000 people. And that's not the Beltway. That's just Baltimore City. And that's a failing fucking city. A failing city that has been losing population for decades has 630 million people. Wyoming, which is one of our larger states, has like 480 or 630,000. They have 480,000 people. Like, you could put a lot of data centers in Wyoming if you wanted to. And most likely people might not even notice, right? So the idea of having to launch these things into space regardless. And that's where I say, like, when you look at this, you can hear the fraud. You can hear the fraud. When people talk about normal business, business is boring, right? There's this weird thing, like business is exciting. Business isn't fucking exciting. Business is boring as shit, right? Real business, just business, right? You're basically looking at profit loss. How much revenue do you have coming in? How much did it cost in order to provide those services? And that's what business is. Business should be relatively simple, right? Again, the actual thing that what you do, right? The product, building the product becomes complicated. But there's a difference between selling a product. The business is in the selling the product. The creation of the product gets into its own thing. Anyways, what I find interesting now is we're hearing more and more of the AI. They're not using business terminology, right? This isn't profit loss statements. This isn't earnings per user. This isn't EBITDA, even EBITDA, the earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation, right? We're not even talking about that. Like, we're talking about spinning Rubik's cubes of business models. We're talking about, sentient sons. Sentient sons. Like, you look at it, this is the drivel you smear onto 14-year-old brats who think they're into technology because they play a lot of video games. Like, when I read this, I think about a friend of mine. I had a friend years and years ago. Great guy, great salesperson. But anyways, right, so I had my business and I was doing well. And I went to his apartment one day and we're sitting there talking. I've talked about this before. And he was like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting into technology or whatever. I'm like, okay, fine. And he said, obviously, I love technology. And I looked around his apartment and I was like, why is that obvious? Why is that obvious? It's not obvious to me. He's like, well, look at what's on my shelves. And he had Gundam on his shelves, and he had Transformers on his shelves, and he had Robotech on his shelves, and he had those kind of mecha things on his shelves. And I was like, that's toys. That's not technology. That's toys, right? You go to my apartment, I literally had servers running 24 hours a day. It fucking looked a lot like that, only in an apartment version, right? That's technology. That's fucking toys. Like, when you read this seems to be what you would write if you were trying to impress my friend. My friend who thinks he's really into technology because he collects Gundam, right? Talking about sentient sons. That wow, blows my mind. It's like, no, but what the fuck is a sentient son? So yeah, I don't. Who knows? It is 2026. It is 2026. We are going to see what happens in 2026. Again, I can't imagine. Oh God. Hopefully 2027. Hopefully we all make it to 2027. I don't know. I just don't. Like, you look at so much of this stuff. Again, these $1 trillion IPOs they're going for. Musk trying to be worth $1 trillion. These massive AI build-outs that don't make a goddamn bit of sense. Like, you look at it's like our economy has lost the fucking plot. It feels like all the work we are doing in our society has become untethered from reality at scale. I think about this with, I went to Jamestown back when I was traveling around the country with my wife in the RV. or the travel trailer for a year. I remember going to Jamestown, and it was interesting. We went to Jamestown, and they're talking about the governor of Jamestown at one point had to pass a law that the citizens of Jamestown had to start planting food. What? Well, anyways, right? So you get all these folks coming over from Europe to colonize Jamestown, and the reason that they came to colonize was for tobacco, right? So tobacco was basically green gold, right? You grow your tobacco, you get bushels and bushels of tobacco, you take that back to England, and you make a metric crap ton of money, right? So basically, they were literally planting tobacco in any piece of ground they could plant tobacco on. The issue is it is a colony. And again, at that time, Jamestown, it was like, right, colony on the edge of the world, essentially, as far as they're concerned. And so, like, there were no grocery stores. There was no supply chain of food from the home country to feed these people. Literally, they got to eat what they grew, and all they were growing was tobacco. This apparently is a real thing. And so anyways, the governor or whatever basically had to mandate that the citizens actually grow some goddamn food so they wouldn't all starve to death. And I think that was like the fascinating thing, right? Because of the value proposition. Look, any land I don't plant tobacco on is land I'm losing money for not planting tobacco on, right? So obviously I'm going to plant tobacco everywhere I can. It's like, yeah, but if you don't have potatoes, if you don't have carrots, rutabaga, whatever the fuck, if you can't eat, it doesn't matter how much tobacco you have at the end of the day because you're going to be dead along with your entire society. And I feel like that's what we're chasing, like with artificial intelligence. Like there's this push, this insanity. It's this complete abject insanity on the perceived value of this horseshit technology. And everybody is just, they're just trying to plant AI wherever the fuck they can plant AI, right? If they plant AI and you can't afford a Raspberry Pi, they don't give a fuck. If they plant AI and companies literally get out of the business of building laptops and things, they don't give a fuck, right? If they plant AI and you can't get water or electricity, they don't give a shit. Right? The most important, you're complaining about your water supply when we're trying to plant artificial intelligence. Who's the selfish one here? Like this. I mean, just the asininity of it. You just think about it for half a second. One Starship launch per hour. 365 days a year. Look, I get, as I've said, I know there's going to be air pollution. I know, like, I'm not Pollyanna-ish on this stuff, but holy fuck, can you imagine the amount of damage done by that? And for what? And for what? For AI. AI, don't you understand AI? No, I don't. I work with AI every fucking day. Every day. I get done with these videos, I put this away, I work with AI. No, I don't fucking get it, jackasses. I'm looking at artificial intelligence as an actual tool to bring revenue and value to organizations. And look, there is value there. Don't get me wrong, but again, like when I say I'm more excited about Granite Forest 350 million parameter model, that is not snark. That is not that is a good solid model that seems to be okay for doing things like function calling and REST API calls and all of that kind of stuff. And it can run on a tater tot. It doesn't even need a potato. It can run on a fucking tater tot. So no, I don't get the idea of a terawatt of AI data centers in space. But anyways, what do I know? So what do you think about this? What do you think about SpaceX purchasing xAI? What do you think about sentient suns? Are you like Elon? Oh, look at that. Eli doesn't even understand the concept of a sentient sun. Yeah, no, I don't. Could you explain a sentient sun to me? What do you think about all this? How far do you think the AI fraud will go? And when it goes boom, Just how bad is it going to be for all of us? And what do you think about these trillion-dollar IPOs? And again, remember, with a trillion-dollar IPO, the idea is that the company in X number of years should be worth $10 trillion. Fuck. I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. Do remember, I do these videos in order to support Silicon Dojo, authority-less, gatekeeperless, free to user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is that you want to do with technology. We have the classes in Durham, North Carolina. We have a class coming up on AI and AI agents for telephony using Twilio and 11 Labs. We have a class coming up couple weeks, a full day class on the Bottle web app framework and SQL for building AI web applications. And we have another class coming up on TCP/IP version 4 for developers, so you all learn what the hell a default gateway is. If you can attend those classes in person, there's go to silicondojo.com. That'll give you the RSVP links. And if you want to support free to user education, there is a donor box link down below. And with that, I'm going to go and do some actual technology. I am going to cleanse my brain of this abject insanity and go do some actual technology. See y'all later.